we've been using a different book. I pull out a little information from each book. The first Sunday in August, we discussed and talked about the book Thrive, which was written by media mogul Ariana. Mogul, right, sorry. Mogul. Ariana Huffington. Okay, so we all, most of us know who she is. And we looked at 4 qualities that week of redefine successful living. So we talked about that again last week. And last week we looked at a great book. In fact, we have 2, I believe, in the back. Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. Fantastic book. And we looked at 8 great affirmations that I want to repeat here. All right, so the first one was, spiritual substance is never depleted. I handed these out last week if you were here. Spiritual substance is never depleted. As a way to remind us, and the second one, as a way to remind ourselves of this truth, we anchor in the idea that there is plenty of air to breathe, right? And that was what we used last week to let us know that the spiritual substance is always present, just like the air is always present. And there's plenty for us to breathe. And third, we were given the wisdom to refuse to give up, which it can be a very challenging kind of situation that you're in, but refuse to give up and know that the highest good is always unfolding. The fourth one, we were reminded that no one sees all the steps. And that was about, when we get guided, divinely guided, we don't get the steps with a floodlight. It's usually with a lantern or maybe a flashlight, and we take the steps, one step as we see it. And so then we created this affirmation. I have faith in the substance of God to help take the steps that we can see. We can only take the steps that we can see. We don't usually see the whole entire path, although that's possible. Usually we see one action, another action, and then by the time we get to the end of the path, if there is an end, there's always another path, we look back and say, wow. But that's the way the universal intelligence works. And then we were strongly encouraged to put God first in finances. Always go right to God first. God is my source and substance of all good. I fully believe that. I truly, fully believe that, and proved it to myself. So I really believe it. And then we ended with the affirmation, I rejoice in the ever-present bounty of the divine. So good. So I would like us to do this affirmation together. So repeat it after me. I rejoice in the ever-present bounty of the divine.
I rejoice in the ever-present bounty of the divine.
Really know that. Know that deep down. And as long as it takes for us to cultivate that relationship, because it works. It works. But we have to stay steadfast on our belief. And that brings us to this third book, and it's by, we heard the speaker at one of our conferences, Rick Moss, Dr. Rick Moss. And the book is called Inside Out Healing, Transforming Your Life Through the Power of Presence. And presence means present moment, all right? Just to give you a little heads up on that. And let me share you this statement. This is from the introduction in the book. And just to let you know that this talk is I have to share it with you because it was a little left brain for me as I was doing it and writing it, and you'll see in your bulletins, you don't have to pull them out now, but I even had to print up little charts so that we can all kind of get this. I shrank it so you can't read the words, so. But I'm going to really go into detail on it. So he wrote this: if you or a loved one is facing a health challenge, relationship crisis, or any other situation in which you experience emotional suffering, This book will help you understand and remedy what you unconsciously do that makes your situation more difficult. It will teach you the way to realize a timeless inner power and be restored to a sense of deeper trust in yourself. It will show you how to access the universal energy that can immediately enliven you. And that's a lot. That's what this book promises. That's a real lot. So I would like us to really get it today. The entire premise of the book, and it is a rich and deep book, a lot of information, is to release, this is the fun part, the stories we tell ourselves about whatever situation, challenge, circumstance might be. We live a lot of the time in the story. So it is what it is. I'm going to keep repeating this because I really need to learn this also again and again and again. It is what it is, but what story am I telling about what is? Because it is in the present moment where the divine lives. Doesn't live, it doesn't even recognize time and space. Ernest Holmes tells us in The Science of Mind, time and space are unknown in mind, and that means divine mind. The past and the present are one. So it is the present moment where the divine's love abounds. Right here, right now, in the present moment where the energy of life convenes. It is the present moment where the divine intelligence lives. It is the present moment where wholeness exists. And wholeness means that nothing is missing. Wholeness is a beautiful quality of the divine, of God. And it is our nature, the wholeness. And here's an empowering and amazing idea that I really want you to think about and to ponder and to contemplate. Every instant you are fully present to the present moment is a moment of restoring yourself to wholeness. And why is that? Because when you turn your attention away from your stories and turn to the present moment, you enter a limitless field of intelligence, this infinite potential of divine mind, and it's ours to take, to experience, to share. And in that intelligence is a field of love. And that's the greatest healing resource that we have. That's it. That is the most healing aspect of our being, to know that in this present moment, that's where divine love and all possibilities exist. The atoms, the molecules, the cells of your body actually reorganize themselves in greater or lesser degrees of wholeness according to how you present you to you, who you really are. We are changing the molecular structure of our physicality by what we believe and what we state and who we are. And so it's so important then to really be aware. And we're going to get into more. I am reminded of an affirmation that I learned many years ago. The present is my point of power. This is the point of power we each possess, this present moment. Not tomorrow, not last week, none of that. So say that with me. The present is my point of power. Say it again, see. The present is my point of power. And so it is. So it is. So today I'm going to offer you a tool. Actually, a couple of tools, but one that I think is very, very powerful. And what it will do is help us return to the present moment when we forget. And it's not something to learn about here today and then not practice, not use, to go out and forget it. It's also not a tool to be mastered in one moment. Like many of these spiritual tools, it takes us to actually use them and live them. and apply it over and over again. The tool is called, this tool from Rick Moss's book is called the Mandala of Being. Mandala, I love that word, it's a Sanskrit word. Does anyone know what it means?
Circle.
Thank you. We have a brilliant person here who always knows what that means. It means a circle. Mandala means a circle. It has been a universal symbol over the millennia, particularly in Eastern spiritual traditions. In those traditions, mandalas are a form of sacred art. Elaborate paintings, or we see the sand, that symbolically depict the journey from the world of illusion to the realization of the timeless self at the center in each and every one of us. Do you know there is a timeless self right where you are? That is the truth of who you are. Isn't that exciting to know? I think it is very exciting to know. And you're probably all familiar with the sand mandalas we've seen that the Buddhist priests create, and they're temporary. And they, if you haven't seen one, look them up on the internet because they're absolutely spectacular. And then they just let them blow away. But it's the whole sacred ritual of creating. And the practice of being present in the moment. That's the point of it. So the tool Moses is using is the mandala of being is a way to model how our thinking minds operate relative to being aware. So our thinking minds and then our conscious minds in the present moment. It teaches us how to consistently live in the now moment because we forget. I forget, and then I got to keep bringing myself back. It is so important to do that. The mandala of being will help you wake up and live more in this present moment, awareness instead of in our stories. You learn how to meet life's greatest challenges with so much less suffering. Why is that? Here's a fact, and I really contemplated this. It's so true. The fact is, in this human experience, major events in our lives, such as serious illnesses, injury, divorce, financial ruin, death, or loss of a loved one, are intensely challenging, and they're very, very painful. But here is a thought-provoking idea. They do not cause our greatest suffering. That event does not cause our greatest suffering. Our greatest suffering often comes not from the situation itself, but from the story we make up around it. It's one thing to be unable to continue a promising athletic career due to injury, and it's far worse to tell yourself that you don't have anything that's worth living for in life. It's always going to be the response, the story you make up around the situation. It's one thing to be able to go through a devastating divorce or death of a beloved family member or partner. It is even more painful to live in the belief that you will never find love again, because these are the kinds of stories we tell ourselves. The death is the death, the divorce is the divorce. What story are you living? That's what we need to go within and ask ourselves. The way to minimize the suffering is to practice the presence, to harness the power of love in this now moment. We must continuously breathe, and the breath work, as we're going to find out at the end, to me is one of the most powerful tools I own, and it's free, and there's more than enough. There's plenty to breathe, but that breath gives you that moment to pause. And when you pause, you can drop into your heart. And when you drop into your heart, that's where the love exists. That's where the divinity exists, right in that whole heart chakra. So today we're going to be doing something that's kind of a mental moment. And we're going to create in our mind's eye the mandala, this mandala that I'm talking about. And then we will actually use it on a current situation. So I did kind of print one up for you guys. I dropped my glasses so I can't even read it, but I know what it's going to say, so. Okay, so imagine a circle. And that circle represents your life. The whole circle represents your life. All of it. Inside the circle is another circle. And written inside of that inner circle is the word now. When you are in the central, that inner circle, now, you are fully engaged in the present moment. You are present to exactly what is. And we will return to a place, in that place in a minute. But first I want to share with you the other places on this mandala. It is kind of interesting. It's in his book. And I try to shrink it down for you. So think of it, you got the circle, and think of an arrow pointing upwards to the 12 o'clock, away from the now moment. That's the future. Your future position represents any moment when you are going through a painful, challenging situation and you begin to tell yourself stories about it. Anybody do that? I love when I do these talks and then stuff happens in my life to make me have to live it right before I come up here and give it to you. I'm going to start, my next series is going to be on joy and happiness and how that's part of my life. So since the future is always imaginary, remember that. It's always imaginary. These future stories will either generate positive anticipation, which they can do, with emotions of hopefulness or eagerness, or negative anticipation, such as worry, anxiety, or even terror. But usually, when we are in a stressful, painful situation, our futurizing isn't about a pleasant, positive outcome. Lots of times we find ourselves going into that awfulizing state. Yes. That awfulizing state. Opposite of that, now on your little graph there, chart, is the bottom, which is the 6 o'clock. And so at 6 o'clock there, you have the past. This position represents when your thinking mind carries you to the past and you start identifying your thoughts about specific memories. So this is so interesting as human beings. We are so interesting, aren't we? Oh my gosh. And then we try to manage other people. We can't even manage ourselves. It's like, oh yeah, I know what's best in this situation. And it's like, oh really? Okay, so then we have the past, where we identify the thoughts about specific memories. Past stories will either generate a sense of a pleasant reminiscence or bring in a place of fear and awful memories and regret, blame, shame. All of those are in the past. Those are in the past. At 3 o'clock on your chart, you focus on the you, meaning the outer world. So that's the outer world stuff. The you position represents what happened when you identify with your beliefs and judgments. What happens when you do? When your judgments about not only yourself but other people. Because you think you know what other people are thinking. Or anything else you can think of, your career, the situation you're in, money, politics. The list is really endless. It really is. These stories will either elevate or diminish the person or thing that you are thinking about. Or as you identify with the stories, these are all stories we tell ourselves. Are we getting this a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good. You experience emotions ranging from appreciation adulation and admiration to rage, resentment, hate, jealousy, hurt. We get hurt a lot. Finally, at 9 o'clock, we have me, which is you. This position represents the emotional quality you experience as a result of identifying your judgments about yourself. Me stories can lead to feelings of superiority, arrogance, or inferior, worthlessness, unwanted, unlovable stories that we tell ourselves. And Moss writes this in his book. The mandala of being will help you understand how much the thoughts going through your head often weaken and hurt you. It will give you a means of becoming aware and waking up right at the moment when you are being captured by a thought or a story that would otherwise drag you into a stressful, emotional quagmire. Love that word. I feel like it was just in one. In fact, it was. Even the thoughts of that bring hope or pleasant reminiscence, while they can be welcome compared with those that frighten or depress you, do not bring as much intuitive wisdom or healing energy as when you rest in the present. None of those things. When we're in the present moment, we can take control of our story is the point. And he continues this. Similarly, holding warm and positive thoughts of another person will not reveal the surprising depth of love or compassion that can suddenly arise when you are really present with someone and see that individual exactly as he or she is, when we center on that breath and center into the now moment. And so our past is to notice. So our practice is to notice. To notice. When we are in the future, the past, you or me story, and then to return again and again and again to the now moment. So he writes this, Rick Moss writes this. When you are anchoring your attention in the present, you are not immune to pain. Don't think the pain goes away. You're still in that situation. But what you feel is genuine, unadulterated feeling that accompanied whatever is happening. Without stories, that's the key right there, without the stories. Without the reality manufactured by your thinking. Your actual feeling and actual experience do not divide you or cut you off from life. What is, and it is never worse than what you imagine it to be. Oh, can you relate to that? Something happens and it's devastating. Yes, it's devastating. It hurts. But then we immediately go into all kinds of stories about it. That hurts even worse. So the point is that's why the Thich Nhat Hanh reading was so perfect, to take and breathe in and bring yourself back, because that breath will help you. So I invite you right now to close your eyes if you want, and think of something, real briefly, that might be causing you pain. And look at the future. The past, the you, the me, and identify the stories that you are telling yourself. Now turn your attention, your focus, to your heart. To bring your focus to your heart, it might help to gently place your fingers at the place of your physical heart. I find this is really important. Now, no pressure of doing it right. There's no right or wrong way. Just have your attention gently rest on your heart. Just 1 minute. And next, consciously slow down your breathing. So you count in 5. And exhale 5. Let's do that one more time. Breathe in. And exhale. And feel care, appreciation, gratitude, compassion. And let us know with those feelings that we can stay there for a few moments. And at home, I would suggest that you do this for 3 to 5 minutes. If something is really like messing with your head, your thinking, your story that you're making up, the pain still will be there, but you'll bring your focus through this practice. This is from Heart Math. You'll bring your focus back to the now moment in your heart, where you can just for that brief time let go of the story and just be with what is. What is. What is never worse than what you imagine it might be. That's a very important point. So continue to hold your hands over your heart, breathing deeply. We need this moment to breathe deeply, to connect. And so take this in. All is well in this moment. I am at peace in this now moment. I am loved in this now moment. Just breathe that in. Fully realizing that these stories are not present in this space. They're not present. There's no judgment in the heart. The isness of life resides here. And you can return here anytime you choose. And so this talk this morning is really about giving us and reminding us to live in the present now and giving us a tool, an easy tool to use so that we may make decisions from this place, not from the story, but from the place of isness, and open up to the limitless potential that's always available. Okay. And so I thank you all, and have a beautiful, glorious day.